Hello, it is another Tuesday, which means it's time for another in real life video. This week we are taking a few general viewer submitted questions. We've kind of had a good string recently where there are questions that were sort of more topical things that I've brought up myself. So I figured, hey, we'll dive into the big list that we've got. And as per usual, feel free to submit your own question if you would like in the comments below. It really helps me a ton if you include a question mark there. Helps me like Control F, parse through it. YouTube has its own sort of thing where you can filter comments that may or may not contain a question, but I have found that to be sometimes like unreliable. Sometimes I'm dubious of the fact as to whether or not that works. Anyway, also this week, I've got like new lighting. I finally got like a proper key light. It's quite good. It's quite powerful. I've got it positioned significantly like over there, up and above me, trying to get that nice, roughly 45-degree angle situation that people always say is maybe the ideal situation for it. Let me know what you think if you have any input on that. Part of me is wondering, should I dim the rest of the room? Because I could do that. In fact, I did that recently on a few Avowed videos I recorded that haven't gone out just yet. But I did like dim the background, which I think works really good for like recording a in real life video, right? That way there's nothing really popping in the background, make that pretty dark, and then just kind of have it like illuminate me, the human being, right? A lot of things to think about, a lot of things to experiment with, but like I said, I'm definitely surveying the land, definitely looking for input if you've got any. Right. Part of me wonders like maybe more contrast would be good, but at the same time, I don't really like the idea of washing out color, right? Like, especially in clothing, right? As silly as that sounds, I would love the idea of like, you know, being able to see more the whales in this corduroy jacket, right? I would very much like that. This nice brown corduroy jacket. I would like that to get picked up more. More of this pin of the absolute. I would be down for that. But we'll see, right? Still very much like a work in progress as per usual, right? You know, it's always a sort of flow, as it were. Anyway, this week, we have, like I said, a few general viewers submitted questions. I thought this week we would take some more, like, simple, easy-to-answer questions, right? Ones that are a little bit more, I don't know, less taxing, less vital, less important, less, like, heavy, some lighter fare. And we'd roll three of them up into one. So this week, we have questions submitted by general viewers, and their three usernames should be somewhere, let's see, in the lower third of the screen right about now, in order from left to right, as you see it on your screen, which I think, yeah, because of the camera, I motioned to the right, but it'll be from here onward, right? You're left to the right, as if you're reading. Anyway, first up, right? First question asks, very simply, right? I'm sure this will be a quicker one, hopefully. Why did you stop with the community posts? So, early on, not early on. Yeah, in fact, let me rescind that. Around the time that YouTube Shorts started really kicking off, and thus, this YouTube channel itself, like, grew at a very rapid pace, right? I delved into community posts as well because I had heard people say like, oh, this is a good thing to do right now. This is a good way to get traffic to your channel and all of that. And so I did a whole bunch of really silly and stupid flippant ones for those who are unaware. I did a whole bunch where it was pretty much anything related to Elder Scrolls mostly, and to some degree Fallout. I sort of tied all of it into, I don't know, current cultural zeitgeist, anything topical, right? Like if there was something in it's especially like as it pertained to me, right? So it did have kind of like I don't know what you would say, like an American focal point as far as cultural touchstones are concerned. But anything that was currently popping off in either like online discourse or whatever, you know, I kind of applied it to be like, oh, which Elder Scrolls character is most likely to do such and such? And it was just like a series of ridiculous choices. And so sometimes I would try to include like 2 characters that were present in Skyrim, maybe one that was present in most games because they're like a deific being of some sort. Try to include a character from Oblivion or Morrowind, right? And true enough, oftentimes you get the recency bias wherein not as many people have played Morrowind or Oblivion as have played Skyrim, you know? So tended to be Skyrim characters got the most votes in those surveys, as it were, right? They were just silly, dumb poll questions. But true enough, that was some measure of engagement, right? That was some measure of engagement with the channel, and thus people clicking on that would end up getting them more stuff from me. I think. I don't know. I have no idea how to even track the metrics of it. I have no idea if you interacting with one of my polls resulted in you getting fed a short that I had made, or getting fed part 127 of a playthrough, right? I've no idea. I've absolutely no idea. But regardless, there would be folks as well who had hangups with like, well, people only ever vote for the Skyrim one, right? Which, true, fair enough. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for your comment, which counts as even further engagement in this terrible system and this horrifying algorithm. Thank you so much for your comment. Which I'm sure will spur forward more people to comment on it, you know? What a delightful system we have concocted here. And it did pretty well, right? There were quite a few people voting on those silly, ridiculous polls. I have no idea how they still do. Very few people do them anymore. Right? I think at most I see folks doing them once a week. Right, at least among folks who I follow. Sure enough, there's hardly any people who I follow who do like video essays or whatever that ever put out a poll, you know? I have no idea what the conversion rate is, and if there is one, I would assume it's pretty poor, right? I would assume that the amount of people who partake in a community poll that go on to watch a long-form video is pretty abysmal. Probably comparable to YouTube Shorts, which, well, maybe even worse than that, right? Which already has a pretty abysmal conversion rate, but thankfully, due to the way in which I make videos, it's decently easy enough for me to just quickly, like, throw together a YouTube Short, right? If it takes too long, then it becomes not worth it, because you really get very little from a YouTube Short, right? It is really not worth it. That said, I've looked into, I'm considering, like, you know, maybe I should finally spin up the old TikTok machine. That said, I think they're a bit more, what do you call it? A bit more strict on certain depictions in like game footage and all of that, right? Like, can you show violence on TikTok in that way? Like, if I'm playing Fallout 3 and I blow someone's head clean off and there's like gore everywhere, am I allowed to show that? I know they're very strict about language, right? But regardless, why did I stop it? Well, quite simply, I got kind of bored of them, right? I kind of was like, well, this is starting to feel incredibly formulaic, which, true enough, from the get-go, I went in with the idea like, okay, I'll have a formula, right? Like I'd mentioned at the start of this, very much it was, what if I apply whatever current people are currently talking about to the Elder Scrolls, right? What if I just took this and put a big old stamp on there and made it Elder Scrolls up? What if I did that? And that's kind of it. That was the formula, right? You can do that with all sorts of stuff, right? There's plenty of folks who do that, right? With regards to, silly little clips. If there's a TV show, right? Here's a secret to some amount of success, right? If there's currently something in like online discourse that's popping off, just slap on like a decently popular game, right? Whatever is in your wheelhouse. So in my case, it would probably be like Elder Scrolls or whatever, right? Probably be Fallout or whatever, right? Or maybe even you could do Baldur's Gate, right? That's doing pretty dang well, right? All things considered. You do it with Cyberpunk 2077, do it with Red Dead Redemption 2, all that. There's like a current something going on in the online cultural discourse, the online cultural zeitgeist. Just have it to where, like, if it's a clip from a TV show that's caught on, that is like going viral and spreading around, just be like, this is the version where I've superimposed Ulfric's Stormcloak over this character's face because, hey, this guy's kind of like Ulfric. And this guy, he's kind of like General Tullius, right? And then you just have fun with it, right? And it's kind of stupid, right? It's kind of stupid. It's not exactly like we're batting for the fences or whatever. It's not exactly super well thought out comedy or whatever. You're just kind of, you take whatever's popular at the moment, you just slap on whatever is within your niche, there's my piece of advice. Go for it, and hopefully I haven't just ruined a whole bunch of other stuff for you wherein maybe you will now become cognizant of when other people are doing this. Like I said, it's not too bad. It's fine to eat popcorn, right? It's fine to eat buttery popcorn. That's what it is. It's fine to partake in something that ain't exactly like, cerebral. It's normal, right? There's no shortage of horrible stressors in the world. Sometimes it's fine to kick back and relax and admit like, yeah, this is maybe a little trashy, but I kind of like it, right? It's what I need right now, right? Lord knows, I'm a guy who does Let's Plays, right? Right? Let's not get up on our high horses here. But that's sort of the throughput of it. I just got kind of bored of doing it, right? It wasn't really my bag, right? Maybe I'll do it again, right? Like, I don't want to swear it off. I want to be like, I'm never going to do it again. Maybe inspiration, so to speak, will strike me. Maybe I'll be like, yeah, I really feel like making stupid stuff right now in this exact way. And I'll do it again. Who could say? I don't know. Now, I feel like I just don't want to devote too much time to it if I'm not into it, right? Because that's the big limiter. Would I rather think up like some way in which, I could apply this to Elder Scrolls. I could apply this to Fallout. What if this character was Mama Murphy? What if this was Marcy Long? Don't we all hate her? How about that Nazim guy, huh? Well, if I apply all that stuff to whatever is currently going viral or whatever, yeah. That's kind of the throughput of it. Sorry, there's nothing too wild, right? I just kind of got bored of it is all it was. Anyway, let me look at this other one. So this is our second question, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about. Found by the Skyrim videos, are you cognitively not cursing anymore? No, that's not true. I think I do subconsciously have a penchant to like hear in these IRL videos, and now I'm consciously doing it now that we're talking about it. But I've alluded to this before in IRL videos. I do tend to have a subconscious feeling to not swear when I'm just talking into the camera. I think if I'm like a little talking head in the middle of a playthrough, I'll be way more likely to like curse, to swear, to use profanity, right? Because that sort of goes back to, I don't know, one of the, I struggle to say the impetus of why I started. Yeah, definitely not the impetus of why I did it. But one of the things I used to help me get started with talking into a microphone while playing a video game or whatever, right? And let's just simply think of it like, I'm playing with friends or whatever, right? Which in such a situation, if it's among, welcomed company, right? Intimate company, as it were. Of course I would swear, right? We're shooting the shit, as it were, right? We're just talking. We're shooting the breeze. I would swear. But if I am, like, you know, in a more presentational mode, if that's the appropriate, like, jargon to use, if I am in that way, like, for instance, in an IRL video, I find that I just subconsciously do not swear as much, right? It's very similar to, like, you know, if I'm going out somewhere and I have, like, small talk with somebody or whatever, or I'm talking with family or friends in person, I'm just way less likely to swear, you know? It's just the way of it. When I'm playing video games or whatever and we're, like, shooting the breeze, totally different situation. Similarly, if I am typing out a comment or whatever, I pretty much never swear when I type anything out because I feel like it comes off way too abrasive, way too acerbic. I feel like it's often interpreted as being, like, aggressive, so I just don't do it, right? Whereas when I'm speaking, I feel like I get way more control over tone compared to just typing out text. So unless I'm directly in, like, a chat where we're, like, being flippant in that very moment, it's very, very clear. I will just avoid swearing when it comes to typing, right? I type way more differently and deliberately too, I guess, right? I think I'm way more deliberate when it comes to typing stuff out, right? Usually, right? I don't want to commit to one way or the other, but I tend to be more deliberate when typing, whether that be texting or making a post or whatever, replying to someone, right? So I make a hard, fast rule to not swear unless it's like really extremely evident that we're just screwing around or whatever, right? Anyway, on to sort of the third question here. Sorry, I'm probably not going to very clearly denote in the video where these questions begin and end, because it's just easier. It's just going to be easier for me, right? Sort of what I was talking about earlier with the community posts. We're just going to have all three names at the start, and we're going through them in order, right? This next one asks fairly simply, are you a game collector? And I would say probably not. At a certain point in my life, I was maybe interested in the idea of that, right? When I was very young, when I was a kid, I have, like, you know, a set of games that I played, right? I have, like, physical copies of games that I played. And I don't really have, and maybe I never had, a sort of internal drive to be like, well, I want to have physically all of these games, right? I know there are folks who are like, oh, I want to own every single physical video game for the Sega Genesis, for the N64, for the PlayStation 1. I want to own them all physically and have, like, a physical library. Right? There's people who do that for, like, all sorts of physical media, for books, for vinyl records, all stuff like that. I don't really collect stuff in that sense. I think the closest thing that I have to a collection these days is, like, you see it right there, which to me, I sort of think, like, it's got some functional use. I don't want to have stuff that I never wear. I'm down for, like let me just put it here in audio rather than just gesturing. I'm gesturing toward this clothes rack, which I built myself with the help of my dear partner. But sort of clothing is sort of the closest thing I have to a collection, right, as it were. I would like, I think of it this way, like, it's in some way practical. I don't want to have stuff hanging up or whatever in my collection, in my wardrobe, in my closet, as it were, that I have zero intent of using. If it gets to that point, I try to get rid of it. I want to have it to where it's like, okay, sure, there's stuff that's seasonal, right? Yeah, I would love to have like lighter weight shirts that maybe I don't wear so much. Like you probably haven't seen me wear some of these things up here because it's cold out, right? It's still cold. We're just entering spring in real life right now here. And you still got colder days of spring. Same goes for a lot of that, right? Lighter weight linens doesn't really work. Conversely, heavier woolen stuff, sweaters, tweeds, junk like that doesn't really work in the peak of summer, but that's sort of my way of thinking of it, right? And then of course you also get different kinds of fabrics like, I would love to have, although Oxford cloth shirts are my absolute favorite because they're pretty durable, they wear in pretty well. Oh man, I would love to have one with this sort of pattern, right? I would love to have one with like a university stripe. Oh, I like one that's, it would be cool if I had one that was like a flannel or whatever in so-and-so color, right? Colors as well, a different point, as well as, different patterns, different fabrics as well, like I just talked about. All sorts of stuff like that. And sometimes you have like something that's a little weird and special, right? Like I talked about, have like a seersucker or something like that. But that's sort of the end all be all when it comes to collecting anything that I have. I've had points in time where, I've collected Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, stuff like that, but I don't really keep up with it. I don't know. I think the older I get, and I think I arrived at this point maybe a few years ago when I was just looking at my Steam library and all of that. Like, I don't know how much I want to devote physical space to like just having stuff that I just have, right? I don't want to have a situation where like, somebody comes over, either friend or family. I want to have a situation where like, my mom visits. I'm like, yeah, look at my shelf of video game stuff, right? I don't know. I'm just not about that, right? Instead, I want to have it be like, well, look at my cool corduroy sport coat, Mom. It's a 3-roll too. Pretty neat, huh? Did you know that the edges are swelled? Right? Something like that. That's probably the extent of my vices when it comes to collecting, right? Certainly when it comes to video games, I think I'm a really big embracer of digital media because, I don't know, I've never had or lived in like a really big house, right? I don't really know what I would do with all of that. I don't really have the space for it. I guess the extent of it would be like, I have a collection of games on Steam. I have that there. But even in saying that, I tend to, I'm decently frugal about it to where it's like, if I'm going to save a few bucks here getting it on like this platform, right? Like, I don't mind picking it up on the Epic Game Store or whatever, right? I don't mind that. Or, Cyberpunk 2077 just came out. I picked that up on GOG, right? I got that on Good Old Games, which I don't even know if they refer to it by that name anymore. But I got on GOG because although I didn't really care for Cyberpunk 2077 at launch, and I still need to play Phantom Liberty, I was like, well, I'm going to spend the money. I may as well try and get it to where more of the money goes to CD Projekt Red rather than Valve, I'm not super big on, I guess, the idea of Valve kind of having such a stranglehold, as it were, on the PC marketplace, I don't know. I'm dubious. I'm always ready to be dubious of Valve, right? They got to the top and they've been there for a long time. I think a lot of people are really willing to go out and bat for them and defend them. And I think maybe that's a bad idea, right? I think that's a little weird to be so keen on that. Which isn't to say that exactly like, damn, I love Tim Sweeney. I sure don't. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have an allegiance to it. I'm not like, I want to have all my games on Steam. I want to do all that. There was probably a point in time where I was thinking that, I was booting stuff up through Steam to be like, oh, look at me, I'm launching a non-Steam game on Steam. Look at me go. But I don't know. I think I'm kind of past that. I don't know what I get out of that. I don't know that brings me any mirth, any joy, you know? That's kind of the end-all be-all of me in collecting, right? I don't know. The way I think of it is, like I said, kind of the extent of my collection is like clothing, right? Which a big percentage of it is thrifted, right? These are, like, for instance, every single jacket here that you can see that I own is secondhand, right? None of them are new. Or they're all new to me, right? The way I see it is, or the way I like to think of it, is if some folks will record a video such as this, right? A sort of vlog or whatever, where, you know, it's sort of like I guess it's stereotypical video game talking head video where you've got like a big shelf of like stuff from all your favorite games, you know, your big collection of like right, your favorite collector's edition, right? Something like, oh, this is a gun from the game or whatever. This is a figure of a sexy lady here. Oh, this is all the consoles that I've got all lit up in a giant display shelf. I don't know if I'm about that. I don't know if that's my thing. I want a whole bunch of old man clothes behind me, right? I don't want to talk in front of a big lit up shelf with like wild LED lighting in that sense and being like, oh yeah, here's take a look at all my controllers or whatever, right? I don't know. I want a whole bunch of clothes that make me look like a weird old man. That's what I want behind me when I'm talking in a video, right? I don't know. Everybody's got their weird stuff. I guess that's mine, right? That's the way I sort of justify it, is like, well, at least my stuff I use, you know, which I don't know. I don't want to rag too hard on the folks who, like I said, have a big old display of, I don't know, video game stuff. Like, you know, you got your amiibos and stuff, right? It's whatever, you know. The world is full of some amount of misery, right? Whatever sees you through to the end, so long as you're kind of responsible about it and you don't get out of control or whatever, right? It's not too bad, right? There's worse things, I guess, right? I don't know. On the flip side, maybe I'm not coming down hard enough on it, right? Who can say? Anyway, those are the 3 questions, right? Fairly simple ones. Kind of enjoyed doing it. Like I said, the names that you saw at the start of the video are sort of in order from left to right, or from left to right. And I have to do it differently here because I'm talking to you through a camera. It's reversed. But as per usual, feel free to submit a general viewer submitted question if you would like. Helps a lot if you include a question mark like we had talked about at the start of this video. And, oh yeah, once again, just to reiterate, let me know what you think about the lighting, right? Should I darken it? Like I'd mentioned for IRL videos, I feel like having the background lit up a little bit more is maybe ideal. I don't know, maybe I should dim it either way, right? But it seems kind of weird, I think, to be talking in a really darkened room into a camera where just my face is lit up. I feel like doing that in a big camera is somewhat perverse, right? I feel like there is some perversion afoot there. I don't know how I feel about that, right? More so for if I'm just playing a game, just have my face lit up. That seems fine, right? I don't know. Still thinking about the presentation of it all. Anyway, that ought to do it for this week. Until next time, please take care of each other.